So for you to say that I'm not smart because I'm willing to call out all of the degeneracy that exists within our current education system only points to your lack of intelligence and your lack of initiative to actually do something in regards to saving our children and saving our schools.
All right. Hey, Kharisma here. Welcome back to Kharisma Daily. Now, you remember Michaelah Montgomery. I showcased her on the show about a week or so ago when she spoke at the Trump rally in Atlanta.
Due to the war on energy, average gas prices have reached record highs for the state. We also did a poll, and 80% of us Black Americans are not happy with the current state of the economy, so I'm going to need 80% of y'all to vote accordingly in November. They love me, they really love me. The left wants you to get in your feelings about things that have been said, but I want you guys to pay attention to what has been done. They don't want to talk policy. They just want to use propaganda to steal your vote. The left is trying to tout this woman as a savior for the Black community, but all she's done is hurt the Black community since she came into the game. See, the first step in destroying the Black community is to dismantle the Black family. So aside from her record as a prosecutor, why don't we ask Mrs. Willie Brown if Kamala Harris cares about Black families?
But exactly who is Michaelah Montgomery? She is the founder of the Conserve the Culture organization. She met Trump at a Chick-fil-A earlier this year with their hug going viral. Now, today I want to showcase her interview where she spoke and was interviewed on C-SPAN. And this part of the interview is where she is actually taking calls from live callers calling into the show. And it was quite the fiery storm, but I'll let you take a listen to that.
To calls now, Kayla. Charlie's in Jonesboro, Arkansas, Republican. Good morning.
Hey, I just wanted to ask you a little question about referendum voting. I think if we could vote on things ourselves, like this war in Ukraine or something, we could have some say in it. And at least this voting on John Smith or George somebody, it doesn't matter who they are, they're not going to represent us. They'll get paid off. We have no say. This is an illusion of a democracy. And I also wanted to say, I think Donald Trump's a wonderful person, a really good man. I'd like to hear what you think about the Mar-a-Lago visit and how he is personally. I just, since we can't have any say in our own government, I think he is the answer.
All right. Michaelah Montgomery, any comment on referendum voting?
I agree. Much like President Trump always says, they're not trying to stop, they're not trying to do something to him. They're trying to do something to us, and he's just in the way. I think referendum voting is something that we should support because if the public had a say-so in funding Ukraine's war, I doubt that the funding would continue. If the public had a say-so in do we want little boys competing in little girl sports, I doubt that the Democratic Party would keep pushing that in the name of tolerance. I think that if we had a right to vote on really a lot of the government spending and a lot of the foreign relation things that are going on, if we even had the right to vote on the migrant issue, and should migrants have, a clear path to citizenship, or should they have to go through processes like we see in other countries? I think that that's important, and I think that that is something that should be talked about.
And Colin is calling us from Washington, D.C., Independent Line. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for C-SPAN. I lived in Georgia during the 2020 election, and, I didn't vote for Biden or Trump, but I do remember this same sort of rhetoric coming from Ms. Montgomery, trying to claim that, Black voters were going to change sides to the Republican Party. And in 2020, I think the Black percentage was like 6% for Trump. So I just find it funny that every 4 years, this same, kind of song and dance gets laundered by the Republican Party. And I think it's worth mentioning that, Ms. Montgomery, she was the former city director of Blexit, which is a far right, we're going to try and get, we're going to try and quote unquote free the plantation mentality is a literal quote of the organization of Black voters. And it's founded by Candace Owens, who's a far right loon. So I just think it's disappointing when C-SPAN, platforms people like Michaelah Montgomery or Sebastian Gorka, or constantly refers to the Washington Examiner or the Washington Times, which are quite literally far-right newspapers that are made up. I mean, the Washington Examiner, go look up who founds them. Next, you're going to be, referring to the Epoch Times. So,
all right, Colin, we'll get a response from Michaelah Montgomery. Go ahead.
Before I let her respond, I mean, he's talking about every 4 years the same rhetoric. But I mean, you hear the rhetoric from both sides, the Republican and the Democrat. So it's an election time, and you will be hearing rhetoric or whatever from both sides to encourage people to vote. So the fact that this caller calling to say this doesn't really make any sense. And then he's calling Candace Owens a coon, I think is very disrespectful.
Kayla.
First of all, I'm a huge fan of Candace Owens, and I went to my first Blexit event here in Buckhead back in 2019. And the speeches that I heard, the visualizations that were presented to me, I was like, wow, this is great. And when it comes to getting off the Democratic plantation, that's a real thing, and I don't know why somebody would feel like I, myself, would be offended by that. If everybody thinks the same, has been fear-mongered into thinking the same way, living the same way, then yes, that's a plantation. Because how in the world were so many slaves who outnumbered their slave masters continuing to be slaves? It happened because they were fearful of doing something different. So when we say that Democrats are on this Democratic plantation, specifically talking about black people, it's because yes, you guys are all blindly following a leader and you're scared to do something different. Additionally, to think that somebody like myself, who can clearly articulate their points, their opinions, their life experience that have led them to support certain candidates, it's very interesting that somebody would demean C-SPAN for having a guest like me on TV. There's plenty of people who think, act, and wish that a voice like mine had a bigger platform. So it's unfortunate that people like that feel like we should be silenced.
All right, let's talk to Ladley in Marietta, Georgia, Democrat. Good morning.
Yes, I did not know that you knew Candace Owens, because she's pretty much been outcasted by the right because of her stances on Israel. But anyway, you will have
That's not true. Anyhow,
a good job at Fox News at some point. I guarantee you that. And the things you point out on the Democrats, their failures, you're absolutely right on some of the things. The Democrats fall short, but at least we try. The Republican policies are just the complete opposite, okay? The last thing I want to say is we're never going to let you in the club, okay? And you, like the movie Django, you are the character of Samuel L. Jackson. I don't know the exact, terminology, but, not Uncle Tom, but, Uncle Tommy, or, you were a complete sellout.
wow.
All right, and we'll go to Robert in...
Oh, I can't respond to that?
Oh, yes, you can.
Thank you very much. Because first of all, it sounded like that was a non-black person telling me that. So as a Democrat, that sounds pretty racial and pretty divisive. Next, it's very interesting that I, again, would be called names or be compared to fictional characters because of who I choose to support. Again, these people who are calling and making these derogatory statements about me, who I choose to support, are denying the fact that, again, who are you to tell me that my personal experience is invalid? I think that that's something that a lot of Democrats need to look within, because how have you tried? Kamala Harris is in office right now and has not tried to do anything about the border, has not tried to not tax people on tips, and has not tried to do anything about our failing education system. So everything that she's promising she can do for you on day one, she could do right now, but she's not trying to. So that's something to, for some Dems to take home.
Very true. So far, the callers are calling into the show with ad hominem attacks. They're not really talking about the issues that she's talked about so far in the interview. I know you haven't seen the whole interview, but there are some things that she talked about why she's supporting Donald Trump, the Republican Party, and why she made the switch. Now, these callers, why are they wasting time, or wasting her time and the host's time, calling in to just insult her? It doesn't make sense. People, please be more intelligent. This is an opportunity to get her opinion, to debate her on certain points that she said, but yet they're resorting to ad hominem attacks and insults. It's pretty low base and childish to me.
Robert in Aurora, Indiana, Republican. Good morning.
Yeah, sweetheart. Miss Montgomery, I commend you, sweetheart. You are telling the truth. I want to tell you a little bit about. I'm 87 years old. I went for my physical. I didn't pass, but my dad served World War II. My uncle fought the Battle of Bulge. Back when I was a kid, we had black people working for us. There is colors, black, white, red, you name it, yellow. They ate at our table. They didn't have to go out in a barn or a shed or sit on the porch to eat. They ate with the family. And anybody that wants to do anything for their life, work for it. Work for it. There's jobs out here. They want to put Trump down, and he's worked his. Who would take a shot for this country? Who would take a shot for this country? And he wasn't in the military, no. But he did take a shot for this country, and it almost killed him. And you idiots out there that can't see that this man wants to do right for this country. He loves his country. He loves the people.
All right.
Vote for him.
All right, Robert. Go ahead, Kayla.
I wholeheartedly agree with the sentiment that if you want something, you have to work for it. Again, I moved out to Atlanta 10 years ago with 2 suitcases and $1,500. Not an idea what I was going to do. No family. No, I don't have parents that went to college. I was literally on my own, and I had to figure it out. I worked 3 jobs to get through college. Then I got pregnant, so unfortunately I did not finish. But then I was like, wow, instead of sitting here and waiting on government assistance to come and help me take care of me and my kid, what can I do to therefore uplift us and make it so that I have the freedom to raise my child and not worry about money? And that's, of course, when I invested all of my time into Conserve the Culture and grew it into a business that allowed me to take care of my daughter. So I can't go for the complaints. I can't go for the excuses. I can't go for the woe is me. I wholeheartedly agree that if you want something bad enough, you are going to work your ass off to get it.
Aaron, independent in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I would like to address my comment to Mrs. Montgomery. If she doesn't know how she's in her current station of life based on resources or housing taxes or just her luck of the draw, I agree you're not very smart. Thanks for taking my call.
Wait, Aaron. What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Exactly. Let's sound smarter when we ask the question, please.
Well, yeah, you made a comment earlier when you were living in Nevada and you moved to Atlanta. I don't know if it was my resources in Nevada because I guess they had pretty good school system.
Actually, we don't. Nevada was ranked very low when it comes to education. It just so happened that our government allocates our dollars better. But go ahead.
But initially you said you didn't know if you were smarter, but if you think resources
in regards to how I feel my level of intelligence is in relation to the people that I've met out here.
Yeah, Michaelah, let him finish. Go ahead, Aaron.
I'm sorry for talking while you're interrupting. Well, you go ahead. Carry on.
I think I understand what you're getting. You heard my sentiments earlier in which I said I moved out here, and I don't want to say that I feel like I'm smarter than anybody else, but was it the resources that were allocated to me? Was it the fact that I got lucky with amazing teachers? Nevada ranks very low on education. So let's not act like, oh, all of a sudden I'm not smart. No, I noticed that even with Nevada being ranked so low in education, I felt like the quality of education that I received was much better than the ones that kids are receiving out here.
Out the property taxes.
Okay, property taxes. Property taxes. So are you telling me that with all the black wealth that exists here in Atlanta, with all the black millionaires that live here in Atlanta, why in the world do 92% of APS students are illiterate? Make it make sense. And we have Democratic mayors, we have Democratic city council members, we have Democratic commissioners, and for whatever reason, 92% of the kids here cannot read. That statistic did not exist in Nevada. So again, I don't know if it was the fact that I got lucky. I can't say that, oh my God, it's the teachers that suck out here. I would never demean our educators here in Atlanta. But what we can acknowledge is the numbers, sir. And so while you want to call me not smart, please tell me what your side has done to fix the illiteracy rate that we see in our black children? Absolutely nothing. And in fact, not only have they not done anything to address the illiteracy issue, but then they're further confusing their kids by confusing your kids by telling them that men can give birth, by telling them that there's 53 genders, and that by telling them that your love for your best friend must mean that you are gay, you are a pansexual, asexual. Kids under the age of anything high school should not be thinking anything sexual, period. Sexual should not even be in their vocabulary. So for you to say that I'm not smart because I'm willing to call out all of the degeneracy that exists within our current education system only points to your lack of intelligence and your lack of initiative to actually do something in regards to saving our children and saving our schools.
All right, let's talk to Sam in Rome, Georgia, Democrat. Hi, Sam.
Hi, good morning. And I have a question I want to ask her first. And then if you will indulge me, I do have a comment I'd like to make after I hear her answer to my question.
Sure, go ahead.
Before we get into it, too, remember she did all that complaining about the lack of education, but we also have a Republican governor here who had a hand in that as well. So it goes both ways. Anyway, I want to ask her, she touts herself as a smart person.
I have a problem when people are speaking to someone and they're addressing them as she. No, not once has this caller says, Michaelah, Miss Montgomery. All he's saying is she said this and she said that. To me, it's so rude.
So let's test it. What is the mitigating factor that made the Democratic South turn over to the Republican Party? And I'm waiting for your answer.
What made the Democratic South turn over to the Republican Party?
What is the mitigating?
I don't know what answer you're looking for, and I wouldn't know how to answer that. But I can say, again, I only speak to my personal experiences, sir. So for people to question my intelligence as if my life is somehow invalid is very interesting to me.
So Sam, go ahead with your point.
Yes,
I believe you're talking about the Civil Rights Act.
The answer to the question is the Civil Rights Act.
The same Civil Rights Act that was authored by Republicans? Okay.
Can I finish, please? Okay. The act that gave you the right to sit in the chair that you're sitting in right now and vote. People in the city that you just moved into 10 years ago died for that cause. There are people still fighting for that same cause as we speak. In America, they were in the southern part of this state to which I live and I love. They caught people trying to fake the electors in this state in the Republican Party.
We also caught illegals with IDs and trying to vote, but I guess we won't acknowledge that.
If you will look at the history to which I'm sure you claim to know or you do know, the history of your state, you should be aware that people have died for the cause to vote. And now the people that
also died for the cause for us to read.
Hold on, Kayla. Let him finish.
May I finish, if it's okay? Your mother should have taught you a little better than the interrupt.
All right, Sam, just go ahead and finish your point.
Thank you.
But the people that have died for this cause are still fighting for the same cause. Now, it's okay if you want to be Republican or Democrat, but not these Republicans. They are of a different ilk. They are of a different structure. They are the same structure that left the Democratic Party to come to the now Republican Party. And that's my comment.
All right, Sam. Go ahead, Kayla.
All right, so let's start with the 1964 Civil Rights Act, or the Voting Rights Act, correct? That was all a ploy by Lyndon B. Johnson to get black people to support the Democratic Party for the next 200 years. And unfortunately, the tactic worked because, much like you heard our caller say, they're still fighting for the right to vote. There's not one American citizen without a felony who does not have the right to vote. All you need is an ID and you can go vote. He also didn't acknowledge the fact that while he's saying we had fake electors, we also had fake citizens going to vote in our election. So, of course, I guess we just won't talk about election integrity in that sense. Next, the ploy to get black people to vote for them for the next 200 years was a fear tactic because, again, black people then thought that if they did not vote Democrat, they would lose their right to vote. And even though Ronald Reagan came in and didn't take away black people's right to vote, for whatever reason, Democrats every election season get up and talk voter suppression, protect your right to vote. Black people died for the right to vote. Black people also died for the right to read. So I wish a lot of you would please go read the Willie Lynch letters. I wish a lot of you would go read read more about Jim Crow and how, like, you know, the systems were set up to basically make us believe that we were victims for the rest of our life. So now let's talk about the migrant issue and how it relates to the 1964 Voting Rights Act, correct? The Voting Rights Act was put in place so that black people would be a loyal Democratic voting base. Black people are now leaving the Democratic Party.
Wait. Kayla, you're saying that the only reason the Civil Rights Act was passed was her votes?
No. The major portion of said legislation was the fact that it gave black people the right to vote, right? And Democrats touted the fact that they gave black people the right to vote. They then used fear-mongering to make black people believe that if they did not vote Democrat, they would lose their right to vote and whatever other rights and resources that were granted to them by these Democrats, correct? Now that you see black people leaving the Democratic Party, now that you see black people calling out the Democratic Party, now that you see black people tired of living in the same conditions that they were in when the bill was signed, they no longer have that loyal voting base. So you know what they're doing now? Now they're opening the borders. They're letting these migrants in. They're giving them these welcome packages full of food stamps, housing assistance, whatever else, that housing and clothing and whatever else it is maybe that they need in order to come over here and live comfortably. Why? Because now when you have these illegal migrants coming over here and it's clear that the Republicans are like, no, get them out. Now you have a new loyal voting base who's like, oh God, if we don't vote for the Democrats, we're not only going to lose our right to vote, but we're possibly going to lose our citizenship as well. It's never been a thing where we're going to do this for the betterment of the black community or the Latino community. It's always been we're going to do this so that we can stay in power and we're going to manipulate the masses into believing that we are for them. And even though they will continue to vote for us, we will never do anything for them, but we will play on their feelings for stuff that we did 60 years ago.
Okay. And Dave in Kamala, Wyoming, Republican. Hi, Dave.
Oh, yeah. My question is, I just want to tell her she's doing a fine job on there. Tell us how what's going on in this world, and I agree with her wholeheartedly. And I appreciate her as a young woman and her knowledge of everything she does. It's just wonderful to hear somebody with all of her zeal and her knowledge, and I thank her for that.
All right, Dave.
Thank you.
Let's go to Jill in Maryland, Democrat. Good morning, Jill.
Yes. First, I'd like to know why she feels she has to smirk, neck roll, eye roll, and insult everybody that calls her, speaking over them. First of all, she is not that knowledgeable. She has not had experiences that other people have not had and not come out bitter and turning on people who helped her. She's like the proverbial crab in a barrel who pulls down any crab above her.
Well,
that's
Jill,
moving
do you have a specific question for Kayla?
Yes, did she set up the Chick-fil-A Trump event?
Is that the question? The answer to the question is no. I actually just got invited to meet President Trump at a restaurant, and I found out the next morning that it was Chick-fil-A, and nobody that wanted to meet him was offended by the fact that it was a Chick-fil-A, and neither was I. But to go back to the, I don't know why she smirked, why she neck rolls, while she talks over people, it's okay for you guys to get on here and call me an Uncle Tom, to call me not smart, to call me dumb, to say I haven't done my research, to say I haven't lived a life like you. But then if I smirk, if I laugh, oh my God, what is this person talking about? Now all of a sudden you're offended. I think that's very interesting. Next, to say that I'm a crab in a barrel and I'm pulling people down. Actually, how could I be pulling people down if I was in the bottom of the barrel with the rest of you crabs and I decided to crawl out? And now here I am calling out the discrepancies that I've seen in the Democratic Party and asking you, why is the hood still the hood? The hood was the hood when you were a child. The hood is still the hood now that I have a child. That's 3 generations in which the Democrats have done nothing to help you. So it sounds more like you're the crab at the bottom of the barrel trying to keep everybody down there. And I'm the crab that crawled out and I'm saying, hey, let's get back to the beach.
Kayla, we've got a text for you from Chas in Jacksonville, Florida. It says, Ms. Montgomery, you mentioned supporting ending the tax on tips. Tell me.
I didn't. I wholeheartedly support.
Yes.
Ending tax on tips. Yes.
Yes. And then the question is, tell me what will replace the $38 billion that would reported that helps to run the country. So how would you replace that income?
Well, we would put it more on restaurant owners to actually pay their workers a living wage if we're not going to take tax off tips. And then that money would be recouped from payroll taxes, business taxes, sale taxes, things like that. To act like the money can't be recouped from literally any other compound is pretty interesting to me. I don't think that taxing the tips of workers who are already underpaid and therefore have to go out of their way to earn a tip from the customer should then have to pay money on that tip.
So would you support a raise in the federal minimum wage?
I think that the federal minimum wage should reflect the cost of living, but I can't say that we need to change the minimum wage until we get the economy stabilized, because minimum wage might be sufficient if inflation wasn't so high. So until we get inflation under control, I don't think we can talk about wages, because if we raise the minimum wage right now, that would only make the current situation in the economy worse. There's so many things outside of raising the minimum wage that we would have to address before we could go do something that big.
Stella, a Republican in San Diego, good morning.
Good morning. I'm grateful for the chance to say, Michaelah Montgomery, you are speaking the truth. Keep speaking the truth, because people are afraid to speak it, and you're absolutely 100% correct about the things you're saying. It is so totally and completely unfair in this country. The immigration crisis, the crime, it's absolutely out of control. We can't buy groceries. People are struggling. The fact of the matter is, Kamala Harris is not coming out on television and talking about policies. She's going to hide behind the camera on a teleprompter. She's not going to speak the truth. You're speaking the truth. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Philip in Jackson, Mississippi, Independent Line. Hi, Philip.
Hi there, Mimi. Young lady, all I can really understand what you're just explaining to the folks that listen to the program today is that you believe that pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps is the way to go, and that if you just do that, everything else will work all right.
Those words didn't come out my mouth. I said if you want something bad enough, you'd work hard for it.
That's the perception I received by listening.
The reality is what I said, but go ahead.
Wait, hold on, Philip. Michaelah, just clarify what you said.
I said that if you want something bad enough,
Work
you
for
will
it.
work towards it. That does not mean that you will not receive outside help. That does not mean that somebody won't come along and give you a hand up, not a hand out. That does not mean that you have to do it completely on your own. But the fact of the matter is, you will dedicate your time, you will dedicate your resources, you will dedicate your life to creating a better situation for yourself.
Okay, Philip, go ahead with your comment.
Okay. Now, what I wanted to really ask her was, who or how many people can she name that she sees as leaders in the black community that she believes in? And my final question would be, and does she listen or take into account some of the teachings of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and Malcolm X in terms of self-improvement in the black community?
What was the first part of the question? I know the second part about Malcolm X and Louis Farrakhan. What was the first part?
Well, let's take it from right there, because
so Malcolm X is actually one of the greatest people I think ever to touch this planet. I actually have By Any Means Necessary tattooed on my back. And that speaks to the whole, if you want something bad enough, you're going to get it by any means necessary. Additionally, to question my support for the conservative party as if Malcolm X wasn't a conservative himself is quite interesting. Malcolm X preached that blue-eyed white liberals were the black community's biggest enemy. And yet here you guys are touting blue-eyed white liberals, or people who are, a black woman who's the face, but of course, will be controlled by blue-eyed white liberals. It's very interesting to me that the Malcolm X enthusiasts or even the Martin Luther King enthusiasts would act like our leaders were not preaching these things to us 60, 70 years ago. Additionally, the first part of the question was, can I identify any black leaders that we have currently in the community? Unfortunately, all of our leaders have been assassinated. Anybody who was going to get us to go against the grain, go against the status quo, to question question our current economy, to question our current living situations, to question the conditions in which Black people live. Anybody who put up a fight against that was assassinated. So to say that we have a Black leader, unfortunately, we don't. We do have Black voices that are trying to shine a light on all the things wrong in the Black community. But as you guys have seen through this programming today, those Black people are attacked. We're called Uncle Toms. We're called Sambos. We're called dumb. We're called, oh, well, you haven't lived my life. It's very, very interesting because y'all would never talk about Malcolm X or Martin Luther King that way. But for whatever reason, we're going to forget their teachings. We're going to forget what they preach.
And there you have it. Very interesting dialogue with Michaelah Montgomery and the live callers calling in. I would say 99% of those callers were very rude, insulting. And it's very interesting that people would take the time just to call in to insult her. And let me know what your thoughts are. She is a very, well-spoken individual. And I love her energy, and I love what her stance are and what she has to say. She's very articulate. And I look forward to seeing other things that she's putting out into the world, especially during this time of the election campaign. Want to hear your thoughts? Let me know what's your opinion. What do you think of some of the callers? What do you think of what she had to say? And I'll see you in the next one. Take care and bye for now.